Hi, welcome to the first video in the feasibility phase. Today we're going to look at what is and what isn't a project, an important foundation concept for you. We'll look at some key elements that define the project, the iron triangle idea and constraints, and some project management domains. Let's get straight into what the key elements are. If we look at a definition of a project, it's a temporary endeavour undertaken to create a unique product, service or result. Some key items within that definition. Firstly, temporary. So a project must have a defined lifespan with a clear beginning or start and a clear end or finish. And in between the start and finish points, there are some stages, which we call the life cycle stages. A second key element of that definition is uniqueness. So a project creates or intends to create something that hasn't been done before. So it's not like organising running of businesses or general manufacturing or anything that doesn't have a clear endpoint, such as general business growth. Many projects can be seen to be very similar though. So say if you're building 10 houses and they're all the same house design, there will be some elements that make them unique, such as getting built on different land, some of which could be steep or flat, that sort of thing. So these unique elements add up to make sure that each project is just a little bit different than the others. Thirdly, the creation of a product, service or result. Each project has an objective of creating a new thing, but that thing does not need to be a physical item. For example, if you think about many government projects, these could have educational or health outcomes, or even a new service could be implemented. When we think about project management, it's quite easy for us to think about the physical things, construction and engineering. But there's a lot of different areas and industries that use project management. For example, in 2017, we had a look at the 5 main industries that were looking for project managers. The first was construction and engineering, no surprise there, but the other 4 might surprise you. We also had healthcare, the financial services sector, legal project management, which is a relatively new area, and then there is technology, which covers both information technology and also hardware technology, such as the phone, laptop or tablet you're watching this video on right now. So now that I've mentioned a few different areas, have a think about when you graduate, and perhaps you can look at a few different industries. So moving on to some life cycles. We have our start and finish, and we also have these 4 phases in between. You may already be familiar with these terms because this is how the course is organised as well. So the first phase is feasibility. At this stage, we're defining our project, establishing the business case and objectives, looking at forming the team and responsibilities and the project sponsor. And I'll look at that term, project sponsor, in some following videos. So at that point, the sponsor will approve the project, moving into the planning phase. Then within that phase, the level of effort increases. We're putting together more detailed plans for cost, time, quality, etc. At this point, the project could still potentially be cancelled or the sponsor could withdraw. Hopefully this does not happen and the project moves into the implementation phase. And this is where the product or result is actually created. The plans we wrote earlier are used to control the project and to check if things are on time and on budget. Changes are closely monitored during this stage. Once the product or result is pretty much ready, the project moves into the closing or handover phase. We might still be testing the product or delivering them to a customer and training the customer. We would also look at moving the team onto the next project and then legally closing everything out. A few times I mentioned the level of effort in those phases, so let's look at that briefly again. If we charted out the time versus the level of effort and the 4 phases, and then mapped out the level of effort shown by the red line here, we can see that the effort increases as we move into the planning and implementation phases. These are probably the longest phases and the most costly. The level of effort and money spent would then drop in the closing or handover stage. This doesn't mean that people are doing less work. It normally means that there are just less people involved, and so the total effort is less. Moving on to our iron triangle. This is a set of 3 constraints: time, cost, and quality. It's important to look at how those 3 things relate to each other. When you think about the relationship between time and cost, if you think about doing things quicker or using more people, that adds cost. If you think about time and quality, generally a higher standard of work will take more time. And then cost and quality. So generally a better quality will cost a project more. So if you think about project priorities, generally a project will care more about 1 or 2 of these items than the other. Let's have a look at our last item, which are the domains of a project manager. The role of a project manager is not made up of just one generic skill. It's actually made up out of sociocultural skills, such as leadership, teamwork, problem solving, people management. These are sometimes called the soft skills, but that does not mean they are easy. In fact, they are probably the hardest to learn. And then we have the technical skills, such as managing scope, setting up budgets and schedules, or reporting. It's much more technical compared to the people management aspect of the sociocultural skills. A good project manager needs to have both of these skill sets. We could also look at it with 3 different domains: technical, which is the same as in the first example, and behavioural domain, which is similar to the sociocultural items. And then there is the contextual domain, which means understanding the external environment and the organisational environment that the project sits within. So it looks outside the project to see what could impact on it. So before you move on to the next video, take some time to answer these questions. Pause between them and write down your answers. Question 1. What key elements define a project? How is a project different to other general management type activities? Item 2. What are the iron triangle constraints? There's 3 of them, and how do they relate to each other? Question 3. What are the 3 domains of a project manager? So now that we've addressed what a project is, you can move on to the rest of the videos in the feasibility phase, starting with the project purpose.